pathetic. Why does she even bother living it? She's just a waste of space.
You really do suck.
Aragoto's finale aired on December 26, 2015. You know the ending. Yato just standing there, the door wide open for more. It's the kind of final shot that promises a Season 3 announcement within a year, but that was 10 years ago. And in all that time, the silence had one explanation after another. Bones got too busy, Kodansha lost interest, the mangaka got sick, but none of it is the real answer. The real answer is the numbers. The production committee has been running them since 2017, and the result has come back the same every time. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what those numbers are, including the one with a name attached to it, because that name just might be the only person who can save the show.
Nobody else can see what I see. It's a being that dwells beyond normal people's sight. What's so special about me that I can see them now?
Noragami began in December 2010 and was serialized monthly in Kodansha's Shonen magazine. The art was a work of Arachi Toka, a two-woman duo where one artist drew the characters and the other drew the backgrounds. What they built together was something quietly unusual for a shonen series. Yato was not a hero in the usual sense, but a homeless god charging 5 yen a job and dreaming of a shrine he could not afford to build. Hiyori and Yukine were not his sidekicks either. They were the closest thing he had to a family, and the show treated that bond as the real plot. There was plenty of action too, but that is not the main reason why people stayed. They stayed for the loneliness underneath it. The anime arrived 4 years after the manga began, with Bones handling Season 1 in January 2014 and Aragoto in October 2015. Director Kotaro Tamura ran both seasons, and inside Bones, the project was assigned to Studio A, which is the in-house unit led by a producer named Naoki Amano. Remember that name? Season 1 was a marginal success in Japan, and Aragoto was supposed to prove the franchise could sustain itself. But it quietly failed. Aragoto ended on an open door, not a pause, an invitation. Season 3 had a story to tell. It still does. The first number was one nobody on the production committee wanted to look at, because the thing about Japanese anime in this era is that it's not made by just one studio. It's made by a pool of companies, each putting money in and each taking their cut from a specific revenue line. Kodansha takes the manga sales lift, Avex takes the music, Pony Canyon takes the home video, Bones takes the production fee, and the broadcasters take their slot. The single biggest revenue line for late-night anime in the mid-2010s was Japanese Blu-ray sales, which have an unwritten industry benchmark sitting somewhere around 3,000 to 4,000 units per volume on average. Above that line, a sequel got greenlit. Below it, the math stopped working. Season 1 barely cleared the bar, but Aragoto did not. Industry tracking estimates that Aragoto's disc sales dropped roughly 60% from Season 1. And while the exact figures have never been Oricon confirmed, the directional collapse is widely accepted across anime business reporting. And then it got worse. The Aragoto's second soundtrack was released on November 25, 2015, only to be recalled by the production committee 10 days later after a track called Push Buttons had sampled the Adhan, the Muslim call to prayer, and the committee judged the use as improper. The album was pulled from stores, all shipments halted, and a corrected version did not reach shelves until March 25, 2016. The same recall delayed the first Aragoto Blu-ray volume, causing the whole rollout to slip at the exact moment a Season 3 decision would normally have been weighed. And there is one more detail almost nobody talks about. Between Season 1 and Aragoto, the home video distributor itself changed. Pony Canyon led Season 1, then Avex Pictures took over. Mid-franchise distributor reshuffles like that are not normal. They usually happen when the financial structure of the committee is being rebuilt to compensate for soft numbers. So by mid-2016, the people writing the checks were already looking at numbers that did not justify a third season. And then the second number arrived.
Last one who seeks to scourge, your desecration shall not be allowed! Hear me! I am the god Yato! I now lay thee waste with the Seki and expel thy vast defilement! I cleanse thee!
And just as the production committee was settling into the first number, the second one landed. In April 2017, Chapter 75 of the Noragami manga simply did not appear in Monthly Shonen magazine. No explanation, but just an absence where the chapter should have been. 2 weeks later, on May 1st, Kodansha confirmed what fans had already started to suspect. The manga was going on extended hiatus because one of the Adachi Toka duo was recovering from an undisclosed illness. Kodansha never said which artist, never said what the illness was, and the duo's privacy on this has been respected ever since. The hiatus lasted 14 months, with the manga finally returning on June 6, 2018. Now, here is why that timing was catastrophic for Season 3. In the Japanese committee system, the sequel decision window usually opens 18 to 24 months after a season finale, which for Aragoto means somewhere between mid and late 2017. And that is exactly when the manga went silent. The committee was already staring at soft Aragoto disc sales where the numbers were already marginal, and now the source material had stopped publishing for medical reasons with no confirmed return date. No production committee on Earth is going to greenlight a sequel against a series whose source has gone dark for reasons nobody can explain. That is not pessimism, but just how risk works when real money is on the table. So the second number landed at the worst possible moment, and the math went from marginal to impossible. By the time the manga finally came back in June 2018, the franchise had been off the air for 2.5 years. That is a long time in anime, long enough for the conversation inside Bones to shift somewhere else entirely. Because while Noragami sat frozen, another project at the studio had quietly become the studio's whole future. Premiered in April 2016, 4 months after Aragoto's finale, and it was called My Hero Academia. Within 2 years, it had become the biggest commercial property the studio had ever produced. 7 TV seasons, 4 films, a spin-off series, and a full merchandise empire. But here is a detail that ties everything back to Noragami. The first season of My Hero Academia in 2016 was also a Studio A project, made by the same in-house unit that created Noragami. So at the exact moment Aragoto's sales were coming in soft, the people who would have built Season 3 were already busy building the biggest hit in the studio's history. From there, Studio A's pipeline has been continuously occupied. First with Carol and Tuesday, then Metallic Rouge, and as of 2025 with Gachiacta, which is another flagship Kodansha shonen adaptation. So even if Kodansha had wanted Bones to make Season 3, the specific team that built the franchise simply was not available anymore. And Bones does not typically reshuffle a sequel to a different sub-studio when tone consistency matters. The studio's track record makes the pattern clear. Bones renews when the math works, which is how we got My Hero Academia, Bungo Stray Dogs, and Mob Psycho 100. And Bones walks away when the math does not, which is how we lost Soul Eater, Oron, Darker Than Black, and Gossick. Noragami sits in that second category, not because the show was bad, but because the math said no. And then, in October 2024, something genuinely interesting happened. Bones spun off its production division into a new subsidiary called Bones Film, and the board of that new company includes one name worth sitting with: Naoki Amano. The producer who builds seasons 1 and 2 of Noragami is now a director of the company that makes every Bones anime going forward. To be clear, this is not an announcement. Bones has not actually said anything about a Season 3, and fans online jumping to that conclusion are reading more into it than the studio has confirmed. But what it does mean is that the franchise now sits inside the exact corporate machine that could deliver a sequel. The producer is in the room, the studio capacity exists, and the IP is intact. The only thing missing is the money, and that is a number that is still missing in 2026. In July 2024, the franchise's 10th anniversary website launched, teasing 7 different anniversary projects. At Anime Expo that same month, Toshihiro Kawamoto, the character designer and a co-founder of Bones, drew a live commemorative illustration in front of a roaring crowd. The fandom had not been this loud in 5 years. On August 6th, Tamura released his own commemorative illustration, and Maya Uchida posted an anniversary message. The Yato Day countdown began. And on August 10th, at Yato Day itself, the countdown ended and the reveals came in. A memorial Blu-ray box, free YouTube broadcasts of both seasons in Japan, an Animax 10th anniversary special, a new illustration from Adachi Toka, and that was it. No season 3, not even a teaser. This is the moment the calculation became visible to anyone paying attention, because the committee had every commercial incentive on Earth to announce a sequel at that exact moment. The anniversary had rebuilt the audience. The manga had ended just 7 months earlier, which meant 18 volumes of unadapted source material was sitting on the table. Bones Film had just been founded, and Amano was in the boardroom. Every reason to say yes was lined up. For a few weeks in August 2024, the fans believed it was actually going to happen, but the committee still said no, because that 4th number is still missing, and honestly, this part almost feels unfair to the show. Noragami aired in 2014 and 2015, right at the edge of the streaming financing era, which means it missed the wave by inches. Every delayed anime sequel that has actually happened in this era was unlocked by the same specific thing: a streaming platform stepping in to pre-license the property and backstop the production committee's risk. Spice and Wolf got that deal after 15 years. Bleach got it after 10. The Devil is a Part-Timer got it after 9. Noragami has not. Crunchyroll holds the rights and has not moved, and Netflix has not moved either. So the Yato Day silence was not an oversight. It was the sound of a production committee waiting for a check that nobody has agreed to write.
嫌だ。死にたくない。
So that is the calculation. Aragoto's disc sales collapsed by more than half. The manga went silent right when the sequel decision was due. The producer who could have built season 3 was pulled onto one of the biggest hits in anime history. And the streaming platform money that has revived every other dormant franchise has never appeared. The committee did not kill Noragami. The math did. The fans did not lose this show because the story ran out or because the creators gave up. We lost it because the numbers never added up to a yes. So here's the question worth sitting with. If you were Netflix or Crunchyroll right now, with $1 billion content budget in front of you, would Noragami be the bet you would make? Or is there an anime more worthy of a new season? Tell me in the comments.